Guys, this story is going to be a real roller coaster ride. First, it was finally time to bring the babies home, and I was so excited. I sort of became semi-retired and a stay-at-home dad. I let my wife run the company. I'm sure you can guess how that turned out. We had a huge fight, and good news, we found out about a second set of twins. And that's all in this video coming up next. Well, now it's time to bring the kids home from the hospital. They were in the hospital for a month in the NICU, and we can finally bring them home. And we're so excited. It's one each, a boy and a girl, one of each. And they were so precious and little and tiny and tinier than a normal baby. Just so cute and precious. And let me tell you guys, if you don't have kids, it's a different type of love. I never understood. I never knew how much my mom really loved me. I never knew until I had kids of my own. It's on a different level. It's a different type of love altogether. You would rip your heart out and hand it to them. You would lie in front of a bus. You love your wife. You love your mom. I loved my mom, but I didn't know how much she loved me. It was a different type of love altogether. Until you have kids, you won't understand it. They're so wonderful. I love them so much. And now we have a new house, and we're ready to start our new life. We had been having conversations about this up until then. I'm not big on commutes. I told her when we started talking about the suburbs, my commute is I walk across the street to work. I don't want 45 minutes each way. It's an hour and a half out of your day and driving all that way and everything. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So my wife said, you've taught me the business now. You've been looking for something for me to do. Why don't I run the company and you be a stay-at-home dad? And you could be like semi-retired and just, make sure you take good care of the kids and do the stuff around the house. And then you can do whatever you want, and you don't have to come downtown. I'll do that. I like doing stuff. I need something to do. She's always been like a busybody like that. She's always needed something to keep her busy. She got a lot of energy, way more energy than me. And so I was like, you know what? Here's the thing. I knew that I would lose a certain percentage of business. I knew that the numbers would go down. But you know what? I had enough money to be retired. I could have just sold the company and stopped right then and there. We could have just both been retired and lived the rest of our lives and raised our kids, and that would have been and enjoyed life and went on vacations and whatever. That would have been a good thing to do, looking back. Had I known what was coming, that's what I would have done. I would have sold the company, and we could have both just been retired and lived our days out, and that probably would have been better. But I didn't know that, so I took up on her offer, and she ran the company, and the numbers went down. She couldn't close the amount of sales that I could close, and we lost customers over it and whatever. But in the end, it was a sacrifice that I made because I got to spend more time with my kids, and that's precious, and I loved every minute of that. We had some fights about it. It wasn't fights like, oh, I'm working and you're not. She's totally cool with that. That's what she wanted. I don't think she wanted me there to be crawling up her butt, But one time we got into a fight. She had come home. It was like 11 o'clock at night. Latest we usually stay there is like 6 o'clock, And so turns out she went to the bar down the street just to, blow off some steam. She had a customer that pissed her off and had a bad day at work. She comes home and she's a little, maybe tipsy from having a couple of drinks at the thing. And she's angry because she had a bad day, and she's just kind of ranting and raving and totally took it out on me. I had asked her to pick up some baked potatoes from the restaurant. For me, she picked them up, but then she sat at the bar for several hours, while the potatoes were out and not getting put in the fridge, And so I was upset about that. But when she got home, I was eating dinner, and I had the baby. One baby was in the living room, and the other one was on the kitchen table, but in like the carrier, and they had like a bottle that they were sipping on. So she came in, she starts ripping into me because she's had this bad day. And because she's yelling and screaming at me, the baby starts yelling. So she picks up the baby. Maybe it's because I was the one taking care of her mostly, but she's kind of like sharp edged and not real as comforting, as you would think. And so she's trying to comfort the baby because the baby's crying because she was yelling. And she really didn't comfort as much as usually just would shove a bottle in her mouth and hopefully they shut up from doing that. And when that doesn't work, then she gets stressed out. Well, she's already stressed out and already, upset and angry and maybe a little tipsy too. And we had just sprayed for ants. So she drops the bottle and falls on the ground. I said, look, don't give the bottle back to the baby because we just sprayed for ants and now it's got, the ant poison stuff on it. So she sets it on the table and she starts yelling at me again. And the baby starts crying again. Not that the baby really even stopped that much especially after she dropped the bottle. So she picks up the bottle and boop, right in the kid's mouth. And I'm like, hey, I just said don't do that. And that's literally how I said it. Just like that. Didn't raise my voice to yell. I'm sitting there, I'm eating. My hands are greasy. I was eating chicken. And she flies off the handle. Don't you tell me what to do, to snap, whatever. And starts freaking out. And she starts trying to punch me. She whacks, my glasses go flying. And I'm just like, I got greasy hands. I'm sitting down. I'm looking up. And she's hitting me. She keeps on hitting me. Now she's like trying to elbow me with the arm that she's holding the baby with. And hit me with the other hand. And I get up and I'm like, hey, give me the baby. Just give me the baby. You're not taking my kids. I'm not trying to take them away. I want to go put them down over here. Then we'll keep this conversation after that. Let me get the baby to safety. And then, so finally, after still trying to hit me, I convinced her to give me the baby. I put the baby in the baby cradle. I put him over by his sister in the living room. And I get up. As soon as I get up and turn around, now she's got both hands free and she just starts hauling off on me, just wailing on me. Flurries of punches. And I'm like, hey, stop. Whatever this is, we can talk it out. So I grab her by the wrists and I pin her up against the wall like this. It was actually up against the window. And I'm like, look, just stop. Whatever it is, we can talk about it. I'm of the theory or the opinion that nothing ever happens from yelling. You can calmly talk things out, but as soon as you start elevating your voice or raising your voice or yelling, then they yell too, and then something bad gets said, and then somebody else says something bad, and it just gets worse. It doesn't get better. So if you can calmly just talk things out, you can work almost anything out. So I'm like, look, let's just, calm down. We'll talk it out. You never tell somebody that's irate to calm down because that makes them more irate, especially her. So that didn't work too well. So she says, finally she says, okay, let me go. And I'm like, I'll let you go, but are you going to stop punching me? I'll be happy to let you go. Just stop punching. Yeah, I'll stop. Okay, so I let go. She starts flurries punches again. I'm running around the kitchen like this, and she's whacking my back and everything. Just, this won't stop. So I'm like, if you don't stop hitting me, I'm going to have to call the cops or something. She's like, call them. She's like, I'm going to call the cops. I'm like, call them. And then she goes, I'm going to call the cops and I'm going to tell them that I hit you and then you hit me. And I'm like, okay, well, even if you do that, that's self-defense. I didn't hit you, but whatever. Tell them what you want. Just get them here. So we both call the cops. We're both calling the cops. The cops come out. Well, they don't want to hear anything that I have to say because to them, this is just a domestic violence thing. Haul the guy off, bring him to jail, and didn't even ask me what happened. All they did was slam my head onto the hood of the car, slap the handcuffs, on me, put me in the paddy wagon and take me off. And they didn't even come in to ask my side until 5 a.m. This happened at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, well, you didn't want to hear my story then, so why would I care about it now? I guess I'll just tell the judge in the morning. So I got arraigned in the morning, I had to go back, whatever. And I had to be out of my house. Luckily, I still had the condo, and I went there. And I was there for like 6 months. Now, I only had to be there for a month. And then we went to court and she dropped the charges because there was nothing to do. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention, she had a bump on her head. She told the cops that I hit her, and that's how she got the bump on her head. And then one of the other employees told me that no, she put up a shelf and put it too low at the office, and then she was having a bad day that day, and she hit her head on the corner of the shelf, and that's how she got that. So, but that didn't matter. They didn't want to hear what I had to say. So we're in court a month later. She goes to drop the charges. The judge says, "Are you sure you want to drop the charges? Because I see this every day. And if you don't do something about it, it'll happen again and again and again. And maybe one of these times you won't be able to make it to court." I'm like, is the judge really trying to talk her into pressing charges? The judge, the neutral party here that's just supposed to be seeing both sides and making a judgment on it is telling her this? Like, this court system is really rigged one-sided. I'm just going to tell you that right now. My lawyer was like kicking me, like, don't say nothing. Just shut up and stand there. So I just shut up and stood there, and then they dropped the charges. But, I didn't even get a chance to say my side of the story. It was all... So then I'm like, you know what? And look, I had to get... In Illinois, you have to have a firearms owner's identification card to own guns. And if there's ever any domestic dispute, you can't have guns. So I had to have my brother-in-law take them to his place and buy a safe for him to keep at his place. He has an FOID card and he has his own guns. And, just because they couldn't be in the house with her because she doesn't have an FOID card. I couldn't have them because they revoked my FOID card until after this. I didn't get it back until afterwards. And then I got it back. But, so here's what happened. I went to live at the condo. It was, I think, over 6 months that I was there because, she would ask me, hey, can you come back? Please come back. I miss you. I love you. I'm sorry about everything. I'll be good. I won't wig out on you and beat you up. Please come back. And I'm like, I can't trust that. And I learned that I have no, saying this, they're not going to believe anything I say, especially if it's a second call and it happens a second time. I'm just going to get hauled off and I'm going to get put in jail this time. And they won't even drop the charges. They'll just be like, look, it's happened multiple times. Now they're stepping in. I'm like, I'm not going to let that happen. So we talked a few times where we had her sister come over and mediate, Well, I don't trust that too much because her sister's on her side, first of all. And, second of all, her sister got sick of doing it. She's like, I got better things to do with my time than come over and mediate for you guys to talk, And I'm like, well, then why don't we set up a video camera and we'll sit down at the table and the video camera will capture everything and we can just talk calmly and we'll work everything out. And that way, if one of us gets irate, the camera will see. You just want to set me up and get me put in jail. And no, I just want to facilitate us talking calmly is what I want to do. Wouldn't agree to that. So I'm like, you know what? Well, I can't come back then. I got to stay here where I know I'm safe because you're not around. So she would drop the kids off to me there on her way to work because it was right across from work. So finally, after about 6 or 6.5, almost 7 months of that, she just came to me and seemed very, very sincere and was like, look, I love you. I'm sorry. Please come home. I won't do that again. I promise I'll be good. And if I'm not, then you can leave, whatever. But please, just come home and I'll be good. And she was pretty good after that. So I came back home and I thought that was, the end of it. And she was actually really good, like, on best behavior type good. So now I'm back home. Things are going good. She's remaining calm. And, I thought, well, we learned a lesson from all this and we're going to get through it. And then, we switched insurance companies at the office, and this new insurance company covers In-Vitro after we spent all that money to have the 2 kids that we got. But we had some extra embryos left over that were being held frozen. So she's like, hey, it won't cost us anything. Why don't we use them? So I'm like, being the businessman I am, I'm like, well, it costs $350,000 for 2 of them. And this is going to be free. If we prorate the costs overall, 4 of them, that's less than $100,000 a kid. I'm a businessman. That's how I think, I didn't necessarily ever expect to have that many kids. But I thought we'd give it a try. We did it a lot of times before we got the ones that we got. And each time we put in like from 3 to 5, embryos in there. And the last time when we put actually 5 in, it took. Well, we had like 6 left over. And we only put like, I think 2 in this time. So I'm like, what's the chances? Maybe it won't even work. Well, it took, and we got 2 more kids on the way. Well, guys, if you're still watching, you must have liked the video. And if you did, give it a like. Now, if you want to see more like this, subscribe and click the bell. If you got some extra time on your hands, why not watch another one? You can choose one from the Stories of My Life playlist, which will appear here after I disappear. Or you could watch the next one in the series, which will also appear here. See you in the next one.